When someone's life is dominated by long-term alcohol consumption, the body slowly starts to deteriorate from the inside out. The organ that bears the greatest burden is almost always the liver. It's the body's natural filtration system, responsible for processing everything that enters the bloodstream, from food and medication to toxins. But when alcohol becomes a daily companion, the liver is forced to work far beyond its natural limits. Over years, this relentless strain begins to transform healthy tissue into scarred, malfunctioning remnants of what it once was. At first, the damage might seem small. It begins with something often called a fatty liver, a stage where excess fat builds up inside liver cells. During this early phase, the process can sometimes be reversed if the person stops drinking and gives the liver a chance to heal. But for those who continue to consume alcohol, the condition slowly evolves. Fatty liver turns into alcoholic hepatitis, an inflammation that makes the organs swollen and painful. If the cycle of drinking persists, the inflammation hardens into irreversible scarring, leading to cirrhosis and eventually full liver failure. By the time liver failure develops, the consequences reach every corner of the body. One of the first visible signs is a change in skin color. The skin and eyes begin to take on a yellowish tint, a condition known as jaundice. This happens because the damaged liver can no longer filter out bilirubin, a pigment produced when red blood cells break down. The yellowing itself doesn't always hurt, but it can cause severe itching that drives people to scratch constantly, sometimes until their skin bleeds. Another hallmark of this stage is something called ascites, the buildup of fluid in the abdomen. For someone nearing the end stages of liver disease, the belly can become massively distended, hard, and painful. The fluid presses upward against the diaphragm, making it difficult to breathe, and downward against the stomach, reducing appetite. This pressure creates a heavy, uncomfortable sensation, almost like carrying a weight inside the body. Medical teams often have to drain this fluid repeatedly, sometimes removing several liters at a time. At first, this might happen once every few weeks, but as the liver continues to fail, the fluid reaccumulates faster and faster, demanding more frequent drainage. When the disease progresses to its final stage, confusion begins to take hold. Family members may describe their loved one as being awake but absent, eyes open, yet their words or thoughts make little sense. This happens because the liver can no longer clear toxins, particularly ammonia, from the bloodstream. Those toxins travel to the brain, causing what's known as hepatic encephalopathy. It's not just confusion. It often comes with agitation, restlessness, and sometimes hallucinations. The person may fidget, talk to people who aren't there, or drift between lucidity and incoherence. Medical teams often try to ease this mental fog using a syrupy medicine called lactulose. Though unpleasant to taste, it works by trapping ammonia in the intestines and flushing it out through bowel movements. The treatment can bring moments of clarity, but it's not easy to maintain. The constant need to use the bathroom exhausts an already fragile patient, and over time, even lactulose loses its effect. As liver function declines, blood clotting is another casualty. The liver produces proteins that help seal wounds, but when it shuts down, bruising appears with even minor bumps. Nosebleeds become common, and internal bleeding becomes a serious risk. Caregivers are advised to keep the patient safe from falls or injuries, though in many cases, bleeding happens spontaneously, a reminder of how fragile the body has become. Pain management becomes crucial. Some of the discomfort comes from the pressure of the fluid buildup. while some arises directly from the damaged liver tissue itself. When the pressure is relieved through drainage, breathing often becomes easier and the sharpness of the pain softens. But for deeper aches that persist, medication is used to keep the person as comfortable as possible. The goal shifts from healing to easing the journey. One of the more complex aspects of end-stage liver failure due to alcohol is that, even on hospice care, patients are not always asked to stop drinking. By that point, the focus is not on reversing the damage, because it's too far gone, but on maintaining comfort and dignity. If the person still desires alcohol and it can be done safely, caregivers often allow it. This can be deeply emotional for families. Some feel conflicted, wishing their loved one would stop, while others understand that denying it would cause unnecessary suffering. Hospice care, after all, is about compassion, not punishment. Throughout this process, the family witnesses a gradual transformation, both physical and emotional. The skin may become paper-thin and tinged yellow. The abdomen may swell. The person may drift in and out of reality. There can be moments of startling clarity where they speak clearly and even express acceptance, followed by hours of confusion or agitation. Each sign, each symptom, reflects the body's effort to adapt to a failing system. It's important to remember that not everyone who suffers from liver failure has an alcohol-related cause. Liver failure can stem from infections, autoimmune conditions, or genetic disorders. But when alcohol is the main culprit, the decline tends to follow a distinct and tragic path, one marked by a long battle between dependence and deterioration. The body tries to compensate for as long as it can, but eventually the damage surpasses what it can repair. Those caring for someone in this stage often feel helpless. They want to fix what's happening, to find a way to reverse the damage. But by the time hospice becomes necessary, the focus turns entirely to comfort, draining the fluid, soothing the itching, quieting the confusion, and relieving the pain. It becomes less about fighting the disease and more about bringing peace to the final days. For some, the end comes quietly. The liver stops filtering toxins, and the heart and brain slowly follow. Breathing becomes shallow, the mind drifts, and the body, exhausted from years of struggle, finally lets go. It's not a quick or painless process, but it can be made peaceful when handled with care, understanding, and dignity. Even though this story centers on the effects of alcoholism, its deeper message is one of awareness. The liver, though resilient, has limits. It forgives a lot until one day it doesn't. Every drink adds weight to its workload, and over time, that burden can become unbearable. Yet, in its early stages, recovery is possible. The body can repair, regenerate, and restore balance, but only if given the chance. The true tragedy of an alcoholic's death is not just the physical breakdown, but the long silence before it. The years of ignoring what the body has been trying to say. Recognizing the signs early and seeking help can change the story entirely. Because once the liver begins to fail, the path forward narrows quickly, leaving comfort as the only medicine left. As the final stages of alcoholic liver failure unfold, the body begins to show unmistakable signs that the end is near. The once vital organ that worked tirelessly for years now struggles to perform even its most basic tasks. Every cell in the body depends on the liver's ability to cleanse and regulate. And when that system collapses, the effects cascade through every organ. The blood becomes heavy with toxins. The kidneys, brain, lungs, and heart all start to falter under the growing chemical imbalance. One of the earliest changes families often notice during this time is extreme fatigue. The person sleeps most of the day, and when awake, their energy is minimal. The eyes may seem distant, the voice faint. This exhaustion is not just from the disease, but from the buildup of toxins in the bloodstream that the liver can no longer filter out. These toxins affect brain function, leading to confusion, memory loss, and sometimes moments of irrational speech or hallucinations. The individual might talk about seeing people who are not there or reach toward something invisible in the air. To families, these moments can be frightening. But to those trained in hospice care, they are recognized as part of the body's transition. As circulation slows, the skin changes again. The once yellow hue of jaundice deepens, and the extremities, hands, feet, and lips, can turn cool and pale or even slightly bluish. This happens because the heart is working harder to move oxygen through thickened blood, while the liver and kidneys are no longer helping to keep fluid levels balanced. Swelling may appear not only in the abdomen, but also in the legs and feet. Each heartbeat becomes a heavier effort, and breathing may turn shallow and irregular. In these moments, comfort becomes the primary goal. Hospice professionals often reposition the patient carefully, ensuring that breathing is as easy as possible and that pressure points on the body are protected. The fluid that builds up in the abdomen can still be drained, though in the last days, the procedure is done less frequently, only when it eases pain or helps with breathing. Strong medications may be used to calm agitation or anxiety, creating a sense of peace. It's not about sedation, but about relief, allowing the person to rest without fear or distress. The body's temperature regulation also begins to fail. A patient might feel cold one moment and hot the next. Blankets are adjusted constantly, and caregivers often use soft, cool cloths to help ease the warmth that rises from the body. Even small touches, holding a hand, brushing hair away from the face, or speaking gently, can provide deep comfort in this phase. Although their responses may be faint or delayed, many patients still hear and feel the presence of their loved ones until the very end. Mentally, the decline often happens in stages. Periods of clarity fade into longer stretches of confusion and sleep. There may be moments when the person becomes restless, fidgeting, or picking at the sheets. This is sometimes called terminal agitation, and it is another sign that the body's systems are shutting down. Medications help reduce this restlessness, allowing the final hours to unfold more peacefully. As death nears, breathing patterns change dramatically. It may become irregular, with long pauses followed by deep, gasping breaths. This pattern, known as Cheney-Stokes respiration, is common and signals that the brain's control over breathing is weakening. While it can appear distressing to watch, hospice staff reassure families that it's not painful. In fact, by this point, the person is often unaware of their surroundings, existing in a twilight state between consciousness and sleep. The family's emotions during this time range from grief to relief. Watching someone fade away slowly, especially from alcohol-related disease, is an emotional storm. There's sadness for what's being lost, but also for the years that led to it. The addiction, the denial, the missed chances for recovery. Many loved ones find themselves caught between anger and compassion. Hospice workers often remind families that addiction is a disease, not a choice, and that forgiveness, both for the person dying and for themselves, is part of the healing that continues even after death. In these last moments, the focus shifts to peace. Lights are dimmed, the room is kept quiet, and family members are encouraged to talk softly, share memories, or simply sit in silence. The person's breathing grows slower, the pauses longer. The body, once restless and tense, begins to relax. Eventually, the breaths stop altogether, and the stillness that follows feels both heavy and strangely calm. After death, the signs of liver failure are visible. The yellow skin, the thin frame, the marks of bruising. Yet, for those who cared for them, what remains most vivid is not the appearance, but the journey. The gradual release from suffering, the small comforts offered, the human connection that outlasted the disease. Hospice care, at its heart, is about preserving dignity when the body can no longer fight. Beyond the physical decline, there's a deeper layer of reflection. For many families, witnessing an alcoholic death becomes a wake-up call. It reveals the hidden power of alcohol to erode not just organs, but relationships, confidence, and purpose. Some relatives find strength in turning that pain into change, seeking help for themselves, spreading awareness, or supporting others facing addiction. Death, in this sense, becomes a teacher, one that exposes how fragile the human body is and how much it depends on balance and care. For those who survive alcoholism or decide to quit before reaching this stage, the liver offers remarkable resilience. In its early phases of damage, it can repair itself completely once alcohol is removed. Within weeks, inflammation can subside, and over months, new healthy cells can replace the damaged ones. It's a reminder that while the liver eventually reaches a point of no return, it also grants countless chances before that point arrives. Recovery, though difficult, is possible, and it begins the moment someone decides to stop. In the end, dying from alcoholism is not just a medical event. It's a reflection of the human struggle between desire and survival. It shows how one habit, repeated daily, can silently dismantle the body's most essential systems. Yet, it also reveals the compassion that remains even in the darkest moments. Families who stay, nurses who comfort, and the quiet understanding that love doesn't end with a heartbeat. The story of an alcoholic's death is, at its core, a story about choices. Some made long ago, some still possible for those who are living. It reminds us that while death from alcohol can be slow and painful, life after giving it up can be full of clarity, strength, and renewal. Every day someone chooses sobriety is another day the liver begins to heal, another chance for the body to reclaim its balance, and another opportunity for the heart to rediscover peace. That's the contrast at the heart of this reality. One path leads toward decline and loss, the other toward restoration and life. The tragedy lies not in death itself, but in waiting too long to change direction. Because even though the liver's silence can hide the damage for years, once it speaks, its message is final. And in that final message lies the reminder that life, while fragile, is also forgiving, if only we give it the chance.